Don't make a noise or something.
Yeah, she do this now.
There we go.
Okay. Don't make a noise or something. Testing. Okay,
We've done that.
we are live. Right?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. All right, welcome everybody to the December 18th Downtown Advisory Board meeting, our last of the calendar year. Thanks for being flexible and having this on a Wednesday, obviously not our normal meeting time, so. Let's work for the most amount of people. We have some absentees here today that we do have a quorum, I was assured, so. With that, welcome, I'll call to order. Kirk Sun, here. Alan Pollock. Not here. Charles Weathers. I'm here. Rory McManus. Not here. Kiana Chase.
Here.
Lori Miller.
Here.
Ernesto Toscovich. Not present. Myself, I am here. Moving forward to agenda item number 3, the approval of our agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any conversation? Okay, all those in favor of the approval of our agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those not, nay. Motion carries. Moving forward, agenda item number 4. Approval of minutes from our October 24th, 2024 meeting.
Well, let's approve that.
Second. And if there's no further discussion, all those in favor of the approval of minutes from our October 24th, 2024 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Those not, nay. Motion carries. Moving forward, agenda item number 5, public comment. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to address Downtown Advisory Board today? Last chance. Oh, Kristen. Hi, Kristen.
Hello there.
Didn't see you there. Okay, no public comment. Moving swiftly on to agenda item number 6, action item. Action item A, election of 2025 board officers. And Alan Pollock has arrived. Although.
And the big vote.
President.
And-
If you think about it, because Kirk said we get the vote.
It's not here. Works for me.
You heard it here. Okay, we'll let the minutes reflect that Alan is here attending. Thank you. Back to agenda item number 6, election of 2025 board officers.
So before you start nominating yourselves for this very prestigious position, I wanted to let you know that your chair and your vice chair terms end at the end of 2025. So just when you're thinking about planning, because typically the goal is to have the vice take over as chair, as things move forward, you will not have that option at the end of the year. And so you can, I think typically what this board does is we ask if somebody's interested first, because versus people then nominating people. So if anybody's interested in a position to say it. We have a few of you. Oh, am I giving you all a look? Okay. Yeah. Okay, we can give it back. Yeah, you can give it back. But again, you know, we've had great leadership, but at the same time, I have full confidence, all of you, too, for leadership. And again, it's up to you to decide how you want to look to your future.
So Joshua doesn't want to continue, or he's not allowed to.
Well, I do want to say for the record that I've been serving since, I had to look it up, since June of 2019, so 5.5 years.
Oh,
And
that's-
I'm committed to staying on through the end of, to finish out my term next year. And to also confirm, we have 2 vacancies, correct?
We have 3 vacancies.
3 vacancies.
But right now, we have, Kiana has been gracious enough to continue in the position of which she's no longer qualified for, but once you're here, you can stay here until a replacement is put in place, Sarah. is no longer here, and Ryan from the mall, is no longer at the mall, and he's taken a job in Springfield, closer to where he lives, so we have
Okay,
three vacancies.
okay. Is anyone in their heart of hearts bubbling up? Is there any desire here to take the torch? Well, the vice chair is sitting here, so.
But I don't say.
He can't take the torch, that's why I'm sharing it, this is up with yours.
Oh, excuse me.
We're good torch.
Yeah.
So you guys are totally off
That's
the board.
Excuse me, sorry. My oversight.
So these two young men are off the board then.
Correct, completely off
At the end of next year.
at the end of
At the
twenty
end of next
twenty-five.
year.
So he can't be,
They can both stay in their positions. I only bring it up in that at the end of next year, you would not have a natural
yeah, vice
progression,
versa.
right? So you don't have to do it now, you can.
But Charles, do
stay-
you want to progress? Don't you want to progress?
Tell him, Lori.
Well, I'm just asking, if he's the vice chair now, don't you want to progress in 2025 to be the chair?
Oh, I feel like I've peaked.
Good way to wrap it up. The chairman, the president.
Oh,
So we don't need to make any decisions today. This is just on our radar.
You do not, it will just be more difficult, obviously, at the end of twenty twenty-five, because you'll be sitting here with the same moment. But no, you do not have, you have to have action on who will be it in twenty twenty-five. But if the two of you are who's voted in, then that's fine.
Hmm,
You still have to vote on who your officers are in twenty twenty-five. Each year.
Then there'll be a power vacuum.
okay.
Yeah, exactly.
First step up.
Well, but in the essence, spirit of efficiency, can we just get on with it? Somebody wanna call for a motion?
well, I move that we vote Joshua to remain in his chair position and that Charles will remain in his vice chair position.
Headers.
They're both very capable and they love to serve.
Second.
Third, voting fourth.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of Charles Weathers as vice chair and myself, Joshua Kay as chair, say aye.
Hi.
Those not nay. Motion carries. An honor to serve. Thanks for the nice words, Lori.
It's only one more year, Joshua.
I think I'll make it. I think I'll make it.
The other thing that I wanted to speak to in regards to the board and officers is, I'm not sure if some of you saw on the December 2nd, the boards and commissions subcommittee on efficiencies took a report, and one of the recommendations was exploring the merger of URA board. So again, it's not on your agenda today, but just FYI, it will be something that January.
February.
Yeah, so that could impact this discussion too.
You know, you just gotta sign up for it, you're the chair of everything.
You waited to see that.
Yeah, that was strategic, wasn't it, Joshua?
Yeah, it's still tracking in my head, still, yeah, okay.
So,
Anyway.
so the January, February is when they're gonna circle back and talk about it more.
So I'll be coming to the 3 current advisory boards and sharing the information that was shared with city council to get input to take back to city council.
They are Deb, West Salem.
North Gateway.
So distinct. I have comments and questions that it sounds like we're gonna hear more later. Okay. Okay. All right, moving forward, agenda item number 7, information reports. The first of 2, discussion draft for the 2025-2026 Riverfront Downtown Rural Renewal Area and the 2025-2026 Parking Fund budget. Does everybody have their packets?
Yes.
Okay, Get into it.
Let's get into.
This is exciting.
Okay,
We've been waiting all year for this.
okay, well, first of all, thank you, because this is earlier than we've ever had this conversation, and I appreciate you letting me kind of talk you through this. With Tori here, who will be, me, starting in January, so I'll just put out there that because it's early, you have time. If in fact you don't wanna like talk about this today like we usually do, and then the next meeting you would take action and vote on if this is okay, and at that time you would have seen the parking fund budget, and then the next meeting. So if you have questions and Tori and Bill need to come back with any revisions, you have time to do that. If we get it all whatever today and everything looks good and you're supportive of it, then it will save you that one extra meeting that we typically have through the budget cycle in order to meet Bill's requirements for when he has them. So we are early, we are ahead, but I don't want you to think that you can't ask questions and they can't come back, because they can't come back. But actually, with Riverfront, it's pretty much what we've been looking at and focused on for a long time. But I'm happy, I gave you the memo, but I'm happy now to walk you through the projects and give you more information if you need to, or answer any questions exactly like you both got. So we're gonna start with Riverfront. And so again, you might just want to look, the memo might be easier to track than looking at the budgets, but it should just coincide with everything that's on the bigger budget that's attached. So the grant programs, we're going to continue to carry a significant amount in that budget to be able to incentivize and be there when projects come in that are underway. Right now, I have 16 active grants and 5 pending potential. We're hoping that those property owners would come in and ask for grants to revitalize those buildings too. I mean, for example, let's say I don't have a pending app, but one is in my pending files pending. I mean, we want to have the White Seed building. I mean, some of these buildings that have been sitting there with significant vacancy, we want to be there. So that's the grant programs. Redevelopment planning and site preparation, that's something that we've had in the budget that we carry over because that's what covers the cost. Like right now, I'm doing the topographical map for block 15. We have archaeological borings and testing that needs to be done. We have the fencing around the site. It gets mowed, you know, a couple times a year. We have the same now for block 45. So that's what that line item is. Streetscape, it's on the budget every year because the goal is to just not have any interruption of the streetscape moving forward, because we know that it goes in by 2032 is when we hope to have it all done. So the goal is to make that a priority and always have new money in each year so that they can just seamlessly go from one block to the other. So I think, I'm pretty sure I gave you all the streetscape schedule so that you know that phase 5 is south side of Chemeketa, Port and State between Commercial and Liberty, and north side of Chemeketa between. Does that make sense what we did here? We just did out front, we did by Cougars. So I know the next ones are, they'll start on the south side of Port and State, and then they'll start on the north side of Port and State. That's how they do it. That way they don't cause business disruption on both sides of any area at the exact same time.
Is it commercial to Liberty or is it front to?
We've already done front to commercial all the way down to State. So now we're going to be starting at commercial going to Liberty. So phase 6 will be the east side of Liberty between State and Court.
That's all it's in basic.
Both sides of Court Street between Liberty and High, but remember, they will alternate, so they're not gonna do both sides of Court Street. So, Charles, your lovely space underneath the sidewalk that you wanna keep. Remember, that's going to go by. Okay, just, anyway, so streetscape. We have the money that is being closed out on previous phases, and then we have new money for phase 6. The Front Street multimodal, that was the funds to cover the cost for analysis, to look at the challenges of Front Street, big time being the railroad that runs down Front Street.
Is this what Counselor Stapleton asked us?
I was just gonna ask that same thing,
Yeah.
No,
because I didn't see that in here at all, that money that we said.
okay, so what counselors, good question. Let me go through my thing, you didn't see my memo. Okay, my feelings are crushed.
This is a great memo, by the way.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, so which one is it? Okay, so the very last one on the second page where it says operational analysis for speed limit reduction. Okay, so when Counselor Stapleton came in, she talked about two things. Let's have the pedestrian time between on crossing the street, the time for pedestrian increased 3 seconds. And this, can we slow the speed down on the streets from 25 to 20? Well, Public Works was able to add the 3 seconds, no cost.
Yeah.
No cost. So this is still in here because the traffic engineer is putting together the scope. So you see the operational analysis is still in there. So that was.
I just missed it because it's a Counselor Stapleton.
I will miss you, Kurt. I will so miss you. Okay, I will. You and Charles, I will totally miss you.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions so far? Easy peasy. Okay, streetscape furniture, we put that in there because we were doing the streetscape improvements and we wanted to be able to come back and be able to have money to put in new trash receptacles and benches and coordinate the look and feel of everything in downtown. We have been working on that and we had when we were looking at new plantings for, because the members of plantings all died and we went and hired somebody, we asked them to take a look at what they thought would be good locations. And so we should be going out with a scope for trash receptacles. Again, it's not gonna be at all like what we have, where the hole's not big enough to stick anything in it.
These are different than action ones.
Okay, so the big belly compaction ones, they wouldn't be the big belly ones, but something with that look and feel where the sides are flat surface, unlike the ribs, which we can't, and you have to open up the door versus you stick it in, but the door needs to be big enough that a small New York pizza box and the Frozation Nation things. So yeah, a lot of actually both Shelley and now Derek have spent quite a bit of work trying to figure out the best design. And remember, the other piece will be more strategic locations for those. Because we don't need as many as what we have out there.
Right.
Because less trash receptacles, less trash. That's a proven fact. We removed them from all the floors of the parking structure. No trash. By where we had trash before. So, you know, we will make sure that there's trash cans, but there won't be as many trash cans out there. They just don't make sense in some locations.
So the big belly ones, that wasn't even last year, that was like a year before, wasn't it?
So-
Approved that to be.
When Shelley went out for solicitation for trash receptacles, which included specifications that would have aligned with Big Belly, they didn't respond to the solicitation. That was a failed solicitation. which is why
Wow.
Derek, I know, which is why Derek has inherited, the
So this still
project.
kind of incorporates that, but just maybe different.
Exactly,
Smaller.
exactly, probably more info than you want, but that's. Okay, so, the next project was that sister project. To follow up with what we had had in prior years where we were putting in the buffer lanes. First, we did the signal for the bikes at Commercial and Union because people couldn't get across. And then we did bike lane improvements, and then we did the buffered bike lane improvement, by Marion Parkade. And so this was a project that was identified when they were looking at projects for the bond. And, the discussion was if another funding source was available to do it, let's try to get as many out of the bond. And so this one came to us. So again, it was, saw it last year, it just, because public works staff, because of all those bond projects, they're really at capacity, so they haven't gotten this one, finalized to have it completed in this year, but I'm sure it was completed in the next year. Okay, so the big one for me is the Marion Parkade capital improvement project. We put money in to get that going. And I guess part of what I'm hoping you guys will be supportive of is that I'm not putting new money into the grant program. We have what we have at the 6 million. And I'm not putting new money into the acquisition because right now we're down 2 people in our division and between Block 50 and North Block 45. We have a lot going on. So I'm hoping that you see the vision of let's put money at Marion Parkade sufficient so that when it starts, it can get completely done because I had always thought we would have to phase it. So we would use, one street and then another side of this. This way it starts and all the components that are being proposed, including the canopies on top, will get done. Now, what's everybody thinking about that?
So is this design, when you say design, or does this mean like aesthetic improvement? Or I guess what I'm getting at is, the question is, there was a significant amount of deferred, like critical infrastructure on Marion Parkade. So is this total allocation just for design and improving the curb appeal, or is it also addressing some of the
Okay,
critical
vehicles.
good,
Yes.
good question. So,
Because Marion Parkade is so critical to the future of all the new living units. There's
agreed.
so much vacancy in there and it's gonna evaporate in the next 5-7 years.
Well, what I'll have Tori do for the next meeting is bring you the visual. I will verbally tell you, but I won't be able to make it quite as impactful as when you get to see before and after. So right now, Marion Parkade contributes nothing, in my opinion. It looks,
Definitely.
it's blah. And the stairs are enclosed. It has a little eyebrow thing. I can tell you, planning hates me when I say that, has a little eyebrow awning thing. You go in off of Liberty and Marion, and to the left of you is underneath the stairwell, which I won't even describe what it's like. To the right of you, you can go into the parking there, or straight away, you can go into the parking. And then on the other side of the little stairwell, there's another way for you to go out. The goal is to open up the stairwell right there alone. So visualize, it's just this wall of little glass and you can kind of see the stairs up there. That's gone. The
Nice.
stairwells are all open.
Nice.
Huge new signage. New product on the outside where you can have lights and have it be more interesting. Opening all, there's no, and then on the top, there's canopies, which kind of cantilever over, which add this more updated look. It doesn't look at all on the outside. like it does now. Once they get done. Now, will it deal with some of the seismic issues? Will it deal with the consequences of the damage in those stairwells and the excessive power washing and all of that? Yeah. Part of that will be making the longevity of it and those areas structurally, no doubt about it.
Right.
But the ongoing cost, which is in the parking fund budget for the maintenance, all of that will be decreased significantly because you have no more hydros. We're getting rid of all of those. The other piece that I'm hoping moves forward, we got permission from the traffic engineer, is to close off the entrance off of Union. The goal has been to make that more pedestrian, bike friendly, and it really has it, all the trees and stuff, it really looks different than the other three sides. So that would change and go with the improvements that you've been making on Union Street to have it be more for pedestrians and bikes. So I can bring you back the before and after, but I really would like to have this be a new project that we move forward with the funding. Do anybody else have any thoughts about that? Okay. The projects in support of climate action plan, you know, we had that in there to support if we were able to move forward with paid parking. And so the equipment has been ordered. The goal is to get it here in the spring and then installation in the summer.
So what's the balance of this to finish out that kind of scope of work then? 700.
Yeah, actually, I checked in with Sarah and she anticipates probably very little. At the end of the day, will need to be carried over. This is a moment in time. So, yeah. And I think while we're on this one, I wanted to just give you some additional information because, you know, we have that survey out there. It talks about, you know, why do you come downtown, what you're experiencing downtown? And this will lend more to the parking fund budget, but still because we're talking about implementation of paid parking. So we've had over 700 responses, which is really significant for something like this.
Wow.
And the survey responders, 63% of those are visitors.
Wow.
And what's been interesting is that the staff tracking this, they get so much more after the weekend. It's like little people are responding over the weekend and they're visitors. The age is, highest percentage is 36 to 50. Okay, gold star here, primary reason to come downtown. What do they say?
40, I assume.
Restaurant? Close, okay, okay. The number of times they visit downtown a week. Highest percentage? This one surprised me, 1 to 4 times. This one won't surprise you, where they park 64% on street. Main reason they park where they do. Highest percentage, close to their destination. Yeah, can't walk a block. Okay, okay. This, I don't exactly understand this response, but it says monthly parking permit location. Purchased if you're a downtown employee, they don't purchase. That's what they say. Do you know the city parkades are free? 86% of people say yes. Usual distance from a parked vehicle, 2 blocks. Experience with paid parking system, 65% of people said yes. Experience with, this is just not necessarily in downtown. Do you have experience with the mobile parking app? Over 50% said yes. If not using city free parking facility, why? Well, this is the one that's going to be tied back to when we had that discussion with Rick Williams about how at the end of the day, when we're stabilized with the paid parking system, what's that gonna look like as far as what's the priority in the budget and what you might be able to do if you had any residual cash flow. We've heard, and we had Rick Williams build his budget that security and cleaning were a given, and that we would look to put more money there. And this just reinforces why that's so important. So the write-ins were safety, crime concern. Less convenient, homeless issues, the cleanliness piece of it. So that's why that continues to be of a concern and a reason why people aren't using parking structures. And we asked them, you know, what would be the most important enhancement in downtown? Security services, sidewalk cleaning. So here I'm thinking they're gonna wanna bring flower baskets back and banners back.
Just the basics.
Yeah, but again, once everybody's educated that these things are a high priority already, then maybe they would say the rest. But the one that was kind of interesting is promotions and events. So again, instead of banners and baskets, events. I figured you told everybody what to say, because you always say entertainment, whatever. So anyway, I just thought that,
Yes.
once I think the survey goes through January 3rd. So you can, do you want Troy to bring back the final?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
More than you wanted to know. Okay. Planning study for a grocery store. This continues to be on there because at some point we may need to, we had one done and the result of that was, neighborhood Walmart would be the store. That would make sense, that would be feasible, and that's not what I think anybody really wants to see. So
It was on the.
now we did that grocery store
Okay.
study.
With us.
When Rite Aid went out and we were looking at across the street before the buildings ever came down. Right, but we wanted it more global than just downtown. It was like in the urban renewal area, where might it be? And
I think that was back around 2018, 2017. It was quite a while ago.
it was a while ago, but that was the conclusion. That based on all of the demographic analysis and the
Did that, when that one was done, did it have like, you know, here's your benchmarks of you need X thousands of residents, you need X thousands.
That's how they
of
do it.
space.
Yeah, that's how they.
But did it have recommendations in that one? That was what I'm curious about, like telling us that we're close to that, what they said, so we should order it again.
No, basically said we can have one. But it would be that one, that would be the one.
They'd be the only one that would come.
Right, at that time. And again, so that's why we're keeping this in here because we anticipate we're gonna wanna update that. Because we are getting, I mean, things have changed. We're not in COVID. So,
All right,
you know,
but can I ask a question why we would be, you know, you can sit next to the people that work at Ross at the chamber stuff and they're like, no way, we're not coming here. I mean, why is the city doing this study when the grocery stores know? And why aren't we relying on brokers to go out and talk to like Harvest Fresh and McMinnville and that kind of stuff? Why is money being spent on a study for that?
one in a grocery store comes up constantly.
Well, right, but
I
so.
mean, constantly, and you're right, it's very specific in regards to the requirements, because South Block wanted to put one in on the ground floor there. And it came back, it wasn't feasible, because you have to have so many people within a 3-mile radius, so many people within a 5-mile radius. One of our roles is to have tools to try to incentivize what we understand the community wants. So if we have something that says we meet or are close to that could be used by somebody. I'm sure the brokerage community would, if possible, Josh is here.
Right.
If it makes sense, they're all looking because it comes up all the time.
Right.
I mean, now the Macy's building, no, first it's Rite Aid, now the Macy's building, that's block 50, it's block 45. It just keeps coming up. It's just like, when do we get Trader Joe's? Years, we finally get Trader Joe's. So again, just like across the street, we're trying to provide resources or try to get the site ready so that we can attract as much as we can attract. I don't know if that answers your question,
Well, yeah.
but it would be a combination. It's a
But
placeholder.
you know where I'm coming.
I do know where you're coming from, and that's why you're valuable on the board, because you bring a different perspective, and we appreciate that. Remember I said that, Tori, keep that going.
Laura, you are right, I mean,
No,
it
she's
really,
right.
the individual businesses, whether it's brokers or the actual site selection team here. Are gonna be doing their own studies and their own pushing, but just to run with that illustration, like, have you had specific businesses reach out to the city and you happily turned over data that helped them?
When we first had that done, yes, I gave that information out to several because it kept coming up. If you're looking at doing something down here and you ask the community what they're interested in, it's a grocery store, so if I'm looking to do that, does the city have something? We get those kind of requests about, do we have something, and I don't have it on everything, and that's why we haven't updated it, because the timing isn't quite right for that. But if we thought that we hit close to thresholds to bringing them in, then we could have it updated, and it probably would not cost us much. But I don't know, because I haven't asked. That's just the placeholder behind. Any more questions on that one? Okay, so utility box wraps, I'm just gonna pass around. If this project will be done this year, but sometimes it's fun. We get to see what you're doing. I love them. You've probably seen them, or if you didn't know,
Is it SPAC is leading on this, right?
no,
Oh, they're not.
this is us, that's why it's done, getting right.
Whoa. That's funny.
I like the road,
The bird is cute, right?
it's right out front. Yep. Anyway, so this one is not on, it's represented only because it will be done this year. The art acquisition, which Salem Public Art Commission is on point for. I would. But they've had a change of their staff liaison, and because of that, they don't have any background. So it's gonna take them a while to develop their scope of work to send out to the artist community, but I have full confidence that when Tori comes back next year, it won't be on the list. Tori has a location in West Salem that his board has put money behind the school, which means when they go out, they can even be broader than just our 2 pieces of art, so maybe we can get a higher level of interest. But I would be very surprised if it's there next year. Historic building grant, it's my understanding that tomorrow, Landmarks Commission approves the 3 buildings that have been selected to move forward to receive this grant. One being the Elsinore, one being where Anderson's Forest was. I'm sorry, don't have the address right off. It's
409.
That would be so nice.
I know. Yes, and Whitlock's Charles building. So the grant fund, the grant amount will just be split equally, is what they're recommending between the 3 buildings, but that will be great. And again, I'm asking it to be carried over because they're just gonna now find out about it. But I don't think that they're probably gonna be able to get it done. Well, weather, because this is all exterior stuff. So anyway, Tori can come back in January and confirm that, but that's my understanding. And that's gonna be actually, everybody loves it, you guys did that, so.
Well, it's your idea.
Well, everybody loves it, we all did it,
So is it one of those, so what you're saying is the 200,000 will be split 3 ways?
66 or whatever it is.
Yeah, so, so that'll all get spent next year, but are we gonna, is this gonna be a thing that's like on a year cycle? Where we should put 200,000 for the 26th year in here already, or?
I wouldn't
how-
say it would be something to do every year. I think, again, the goal was.
I guess, how much interest was there? Out of-
No, that's why there wasn't
Okay,
that much
all right.
interest. But that's what I was gonna conclude with, there wasn't that much interest, but it is something that, because remember, the grant program itself covers it. Would have covered all of these improvements with the exception of the Elsinore, because it's a nonprofit and we don't, the grant program doesn't do nonprofits. So that's the one that would not have been able to come in with the regular grant program. But the regular grant program would have, these items that they're doing would have been eligible.
You know, they're doing it for the Elsinore with the grant.
It's their marquee. I think it's a marquee.
Very
The
cool,
blade sign,
very cool.
it's called.
Love the Elsinore.
But again, if you want to, so I mean, the goal was to balance, we're supporting a lot of new construction. We want to not lose sight of the beautiful historic buildings, and we had several of them need more, so, and this is very specific to, it needs to be on the outside where everybody can see it, and it puts back something you may not have been doing in your regular rentals. Cause you could go to it, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, to the point if there wasn't a lot of interest, it was a pretty tight timeframe to get an application in, when it was in the house. The Slammers doesn't usually do this thing, so I think it's a bit new for them, or they did it once in 10 years ago. So perhaps if it was out there in market a bit, there would be some folks that would take notice, but yeah, I mean, like you say, the grant would come mostly to the nonprofit folks. But historic stuff always costs more, and so it's usually the thing that gets left off the budget first, and so these are nice things that help character define and bring back. I guess aren't always necessarily functional, and so you wouldn't say, I need to have this in my budget, but it's nice to appreciate it. So that's what I look at it, whereas the grant, you know, that's typically there is has a return pretty quickly. It's supposed to do a job, it's supposed to make the building usable. I don't wanna make it sound like this stuff isn't important, but you know, it doesn't have an immediate return like that, so. That's what differentiates it from that.
So nobody got told no, there were just 3 applicants.
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Mill Creek path planning, again, it was something we talked about last year at this time, well, a little bit later. Mill Creek path improvements are already in the riverfront downtown Bernalillo plan. It is a specific project. So, again, tied to looking at North Waterfront, multimodal, Front Street, is this, we wanted to take a look at this to see what we could do to contribute that look and feel to. So again, it's, things are underway. I haven't been able to get exactly a status report from the staff person on this, but that study may have been done. If it has been, and there's some study to bring back. Tori, I'm trying to get that, but I didn't have it for today.
The public works.
Yeah.
Thing.
That's a. And then we already talked about the operational analysis one, to reduce the speed. Again, that's a carryover. So the only new project is a little bit of a twist, but I think it makes sense. We were talking about looking at what other communities might have in regards to codes or what the requirements are if you have long-term vacancy. The other reason why it's a little bit of a twist is that I get a lot of requests for, what do I think the businesses that we need in downtown? I get that all the time. I have what I think are the needs. But this isn't, some of this isn't just for long-term vacancies. I think it would be good to just get a sense of what the unmet needs are, and then it could morph into how then do we differentiate between those that are long-term, that have been sitting there doing nothing, what the unmet need is there something that we need to share? So anyway, I put this in there. So this is your new project, to let me know if you think that makes sense or not.
Go ahead, Lori.
No, I'm not saying a word.
Oh, it's okay.
I just think the free market needs to reign here. We just need to, do the things that government should do and not be developers. That's my.
I had a similar thought, just to add to that, Lori. I think the long-term vacancies thing is interesting, because we talked once about the ones that just sit there, and that doesn't really feel helpful for the downtown, so I like that. But in terms of like this study around what we need, I do think that's gonna come from the people who are like entrepreneurs and stuff, and that's kind of their role in the community, is to identify those needs themselves.
Things that organically arrive are usually successful because there is a need. And that entrepreneur has done their own studies, spent their own money to figure it out. But anyway.
So would this be from an outside consultant or an internal allocation?
No, it would be a third party.
Okay, yes, sir, okay.
I
And
do, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Would the work product be available like publicly? Would it be like, I don't want to say advertised, but made available to the public for digestion?
Well, everything that we have, unless we put it confidential, and meets the criteria for confidentiality, is available. It would come back to the board, or be available to anybody that requests it. It's just, having, there really isn't staffing resources to put behind blending. Why do we continue to have this long-term vacancy? Have you surveyed all the new residents? I mean, where's the leakage going? Where are people going? What aren't they having here? And yes, I understand exactly what you're saying, Lori. This might not be the correct title for it. I think when we go to do the scope, it's gonna have to be,
Economic development.
it has to be more than just market needs analysis. I mean, we struggled with what do you title this, because we have this long-term vacancy. We get inquiries, I do all the time about you're a broker, you have space, so you're trying to get rented. But I don't know, does a brokerage firm do leakage analysis, keep track on who goes to Woodward Factory Outlet?
Brokers don't agree.
Well, I don't know.
But one thing is, it's really more the derelict unused properties that these families have owned forever and they stay. Well, they're part of the neighborhood association, just like my building's part of the it's a neighborhood association, so aren't there rules about derelict buildings?
Well, but some of it's not derelict even, some of it's like it's storefront and they're storing stuff in the storefront. And
Well,
it's not contributing to the downtown
Well, right,
vibrancy.
there is.
But that's not a derelict building, and there's no,
Well, okay, well.
so the building's not falling down, the building's not a safety hazard.
In a neighborhood, you can't have a vacant house forever. I mean, my HOA, you're not gonna have a vacant house. So you can't tell me that there's some enforcement that we can do,
There's no enforcement,
and then,
just like Kirk is exactly right. The building right next to, the space right next to Night Deposit
Yeah.
has never had a tenant in it in 23 years.
yeah,
It is used for antiques, little thingies, it's never, and when I've met with that person and I've gone through that building, they say the same thing. it is a very narrow building, so you go 10 feet back and you're in the dark. You don't have windows and stuff. And so for them, the cost to get the space marketable, the rents, it's not financially feasible. The rental rates that person could get don't cover the additional costs to put the HVAC, it has no air conditioning, okay, so
No
so
radiator,
it's
nothing.
just, it's sitting there. The Focus, because the same property owner owns where the music court used to be, it's Ham something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that other building, that's always been the focus, not that building, it doesn't financially make sense to them, so it's just a thing. But right now, we also have like POAs, that beautiful space upstairs, so it's not necessarily what we could see on the ground floor. We have long-term vacancy upstairs in beautiful space, what goes with that, so, sorry.
No, I have a question. I think recently, and I brought the wrong terms, but there was some code revisions that went through, and one of the things that just sort of seemed like an outlier was that, is the pet services allowable downtown? And what precipitated that change?
Well, what precipitated that change is that maybe that's an opportunity for a business in downtown that couldn't be there before. I mean, we wanted a vet, we wanted certain things, pet grooming, it wasn't allowed, so some of that is now.
Right, I have to make the list.
So that was feedback to planning staff about a need that's not being met or not, where there's a demand, but a code wouldn't allow it.
Like a ton of pet stores will send you guys emails. I'm just curious where it came from at all.
So we've got people that are living downtown that express demand, so that's filtered through staff. And Sharice had conversations with
All
them.
of them, you know how many times.
Oh, I'm not against it. I mean,
I mean, I
that's kind of
didn't know
the
it
extension of
wasn't
this.
eligible, so
Yeah.
I would be the one, and when somebody says, what do you think, I get these calls on, what do you think the downtown could use, I'm like, oh my gosh. We have all these units now, everybody has 1 or 2 dogs, why don't we have a vet, why don't we have pet grooming? Why don't we have anything for pets? And then I was told, it's not allowed, and I was embarrassed, I was so embarrassed, because I was telling people, hey, do it, well, I'm not a planner, and that's why they say don't open your mouth. But again, now it is something that could be, you can't do boarding, I'm pretty sure that's still the same, right? You can't be a vet where you're gonna have somebody overnight, and or a dog or a cat or animal. But certainly,
You can go home, but or you have to go home and fix.
yeah,
Anyway.
I
Well,
told
so I
them
guess-
that might not work.
Yeah, that's kind of maybe the point here, because I agree with you, like, we don't need to do like a marketing thing and say, hey, here's what could fit in your building, because you'll say, I'm not a town property owner, I don't care. But to look at this one little part of the code revisions to say, what isn't allowed, that should be allowed, to maybe widen the net of what could go there, even though that out of town property owner might not care, the few other people that do care have a better opportunity to.
Well, the other one that comes up all the time is somebody that wants to make something. Like when a brewery, so I want to brew something, that's all, I want to put my little tanks up. That's not allowed unless you sell it. You can't just manufacture something and not sell it. There was somebody who was doing automotive. In a building, I found out about, well, you can't do automotive in that building like you were doing it, or you're making little buildings in the building, but you're not selling those little buildings, so, I mean, there's things like that that come up every now and then, but that's not a bad thing to add to how this might inform things, looking at the code piece and to what isn't allowed within the code, and is there something there that would make sense based on what comes out of this if we had that as an option to do. That's a good point.
Sounds like a good business, we'll make things, we'll want someone. Yeah, that's right.
Like, the way this is written, I think it's good and we've expanded on it. But, it says inform the advisory board. We all come with our different perspectives and from our different experiences, but. I don't know, it seems like having this collateral would be a good thing. But a very round $50,000 number for a market needs analysis seems super high. And maybe that's ignorant to say, because I haven't seen the cost of a market needs analysis. I know what an opinion of value looks like, because, you know, it's probably less than 5% of that, a lot less than 5% of that cost.
When you do senior housing and even apartment housing, market needs stuff is probably half that,
Right,
so. I think a lot of it would depend on what the scope is exactly, right? To how much work you're asking them to do and how much research there is, but.
Well, and because my first thought was, because we don't have staffing capacity to explore that long-term vacancy one, and kind of that wouldn't be something that you could just say, hey, somebody look at. Especially when we have this constant, I do inquiries about, what do you think, what do you think, more people, what do you think? So we'll work on, I don't know, the building.
We'll work on,
Somebody, Tori, well, actually Sarah's gonna be on point for this, and you guys know Sarah, she's on point for, implementation of the parking. She would be the one to come back and probably float. Or maybe even create a subcommittee to talk about it a little bit differently, because again, this is just a recommendation to put money behind something like this. The rest. If it gets funded, we'll sort it, sort this out. What do you think?
so is there any value in combining these types of study things into our study bucket? So like the grocery stuff and this, like,
Call it our downtown.
it's, I don't know, I mean, rather than, because a lot of these numbers are best guesses, right? And whether or not it's better to have a budget that is studies.
Well. In the past, Christine could speak to this better than me, there was a time where under certain council and mayor, it was very negative to want to do a study, because what do you get? It's not an accomplishment. But clearly there's a need for studies depending on what you're trying to move forward and what you're trying to accomplish. So there is that level of sensitivity to just say studies to improve 250,000. I don't know if that would be the best thing to do, but I think what I'm hearing is that you're not opposed to putting money behind something that could inform things that we could do better or be tools to make things happen, but maybe not as it's presented is what I'm hearing, and so we can work on that.
Yeah.
So today we're trying to conclude, are you good with this dollar amount and laid out in this fashion? But the final one could come back where you're gonna see no change in the dollar amount, but maybe the heading or the description is a little bit different to capture what I think I'm hearing today. Yes, no,
that sounds
does that
fair,
sound fair?
yeah.
Okay, I will work with you for it. You got 5 hours a month. I will work with you on a better labeling of what we got.
Well, I just think it's a bummer too that, you get somebody that doesn't even live in Salem telling us what we need. I find that really offensive, this isn't, it's not Los Gatos, it's not Palo Alto, it's not Lake Oswego, it's Salem. And if you don't live here, you don't get it. So I mean, that's what,
I'd be interested in the data, there's different types of data, like when you heard the one you said earlier and the respondents, over 60% of them were from out of town. Right, that one,
Visit what?
or visitor one, Like,
The visitor one
yeah,
into downtown,
like-
yeah, the highest percentage of people into downtown,
but like to keep on expanding on your point,
63%.
like. Maybe it's a $50,000 study because they're doing an intense phone bank survey of, people and where it's coming from. I would think, like, to your point, like, wherever this data exists, you would hope that it would be accessible, like readily accessible and available for the people that are gonna be the economic drivers, like the entrepreneurs or the entities, the owners, reps, developers that can pick that and say, hey, money source, here's why we need to invest 115 million into downtown Salem. The city went and proactively procured these studies, they're gonna be pro-business. And there's a certain level of being open when these big allocations are being made, whether it's gonna happen in Olympia, Salem, or Medford. Like, there's a competitive element to it too, so I think eliminating barriers, if it's reasonable, seems practical. So, here's my speech. So your share.
That's right. Well, and the other thing is Tori works very closely with Sedcor. If you're not familiar with the role Sedcor plays in recruiting, retaining and expanding businesses, not, again, downtown is retail and commercial, that's traded sector, focus more job creation. But again, if that's something you're interested in learning about, kind of touching on what you're talking about, it's hard when the state of Oregon has those hot sheets or whatever they're called, and they say we need 25,000 square feet of office, and we're thinking, okay, okay, 200 parking spaces. It always says 200 parking spaces, and it eliminates downtown. And I understood that years ago, somehow the politicians talked about, if we have vacant space, we want the state to be thinking about, and they found a way around it by saying the parking spaces. We can't meet the parking spaces on site, 5 feet from the front door. I mean, it's how you scope those that causes the problem. But yeah, we do have a partner in Sedcor who's working on our behalf. So are we good to tell Bill? Next time, it's just a matter of, unless you want Tori to come back then and officially put it on the, he'll come back in January and officially have it on your agenda as an action item to approve. That sound good? Okay,
See nodding,
okay, thank you.
thank you.
Now we'll go to the next one.
Yay, block 50 and block 45 project
No,
updates.
Nice tries. I'm so sorry.
One, it should have been 1A and 1B, just formatting, it's just.
Might that be, okay.
Vice chair would miss that.
That's what I do. Someone else kind of competent, I shouldn't.
That's all right.
You can't do it anymore.
Yeah, she's here today just. for-
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, we better get into the purpose of the budget.
Okay, this will be faster. This one is a lot faster. So again, let's look at my memo. So the two big things, right on the front page. Laura and I completely agree with this. We really believe, and I know everybody does, that as soon as we put the pay station out there, people aren't gonna pay the tax. They won't. And unfortunately, that's gonna be tough because the pay stations are not gonna generate $400,000, whatever that the parking tax does immediately. There's gonna be this transition period.
Right,
But we know conservatively from Rick Williams what we can anticipate for the first year in on-street revenue. And so that's what's in the budget. And we conservatively push down what we think is gonna be the consequence for not paying the parking tax. So those are the two things that I think are most important to you, because we talked about after the Rick Williams thing. We think that, I know we will, it's just, it's.
Is there any value in putting together communication to everybody specific to that? But you still have, you know, hey, this is happening, you will be, you know, not having to pay this anymore, but it needs to go through this fiscal year or whatever.
The FAQs and the information that's going to go out to the neighborhood associations and the chamber and everything, it will speak to like what Rick talked about. That there is a transition period, but the intent is in 18 months, I think that's the goal, to start closing of the parking district. It's just people are sensitive, especially right now, don't trust government. But that will be a given, that will be part of that messaging that goes out. We're doing this and we are closing, we're doing this and we're closing.
But you know, maybe the message is, you know, it's like the message should include, if we do fund, you know, we get enough revenue, we will close the parking district earlier. You know what I mean? Because that shows good faith. If you could do it in a year instead of a year and a half, you know what I'm saying?
Or say like, this is the last step. Oh, cool, it's the last one.
Yeah. Or what you know what I'm saying, say that it's not, it's an unknown, so why do you have a definite date? I guess, so maybe you should show that you're a little more fluid. That's kind of.
We don't have a definite date. Looking at the projections, 18 months, that's not a specific date, like I'm saying, it's gonna go in.
Oh, okay, sorry, when Rick said that, I thought that was a
No,
specific date.
because think about just the timeline to close a district. It has to legally be closed. And then all of the ordinance and everything, I mean, it's not like if I said I wanted to close it in January, that I could do that. Because it's gonna require a legal process. It was put in place by the vote of the people originally. I'm not a lawyer, but just that, whatever that's gonna be, somebody is gonna have to be on point to undo chapter 7, because that's what the parking fund resides in, is chapter 7. To take away a chapter, it just, but it was.
So I hope somebody's starting on that then.
You just don't do that. We've had conversations with legal early on, because we had to build a plan and a schedule. It's changing the SRCs where you can return to the block. It's changing that, you know, right now employees can't park on street, volunteers can't park on street, students can't park on street. So we're gonna have to change it to, you can't be in a parkade without a permit if you're an employee and blah, blah, blah. There's lots of SRCs. Again, it's all lined out. It's just a matter of, we're not at that step yet. But we will include in all the outreach that the intent is to get that parking district closed, but there is a transition. So that's where all of you, hopefully, as where you have tenants and stuff,
However, we talked to them about it, yeah.
you know, we'll need you to keep. So, okay. So the other piece is on the expenditures. We outreached to Work Unlimited, and that's the nonprofit that provides on the sidewalks cleaning. Now, this is just for the scope that they have. This doesn't look at the end of the day when we're stabilized, hoping to improve and increase doing the power washing, alley cleaning. This is just to maintain the basics that we have. They're increasing it because usually they increase annually. So I wanted to give you a sense. Security is the big one. Security was not in your budget last year because we had a zero balance and we could not pay for security. However, Kristen, on behalf of it, going to her boss and then the council, they found a way because of the community's issues on security to fund that through interdepartmental fund. And so, and that would have been general fund. Of course, Rick mentioned that we want to get off of having any reliance on the general fund. The general fund has a shortfall issue. So good news is the projection that we have for what the paid parking is going to be able to do next year will cover 100% of that cost for the security. So that's actually huge. We will not be, the goal is we will not be subsidized by the general fund, and we'll keep, not increasing any security, it's just our contract right now is like 405, and if you add what they figure we can increase it to, it'd be 421 too. Security is not cheap when you have it designated to yourself. I think that's what people don't understand. We have a person designated 24/7, not the same person that shifts. That's where the cost, it's not like we're part of a route where, you know, Right Security is working for 5 different people in 5 different buildings. We say 24 hours a day, we have a person to our buildings.
That's for the 3 working.
Correct.
That seems like a lot of money just because my people are saying they never see anybody over here. And I keep telling them, but Cherie's telling me there's somebody over there. That's a lot of money.
It's big work.
We track, where they are, and I feel bad for them because,
You can see where they.
we know exactly where they are, they give us reports, and Derek and I were talking about this morning, as a person who drives through them at like 4:45, 5, I keep driving until I see them, because hello, it's not like the parkade's full and I can't see you.
Right.
This morning, they were on the 2nd floor of Chemeketa. Usually in Marion, they're in the stairwells more than I see them driving around. So again, it's a person. So what would be the odds, unless you're me, where there's nobody else and I can see them and their lights are flashing? You're not gonna see them, but they're there. We have all the data.
Shemek, I saw them a lot. Thursday, often.
Well, during the day, you know, the staff are very different. Ricky, the day person, you know, every time he walks by, you know, he waves. They have very different personalities, and so depending on which one it is, you may, you know, they're more engaging. Others, they just are very serious, so, but they are there. And if we don't look, if we see that it doesn't look like you're moving around and doing it, I feel bad that they won our contract,
So
micro them.
is the delta between these two, the same scope of work, or is this actually
No,
tripling their scope of work? So
no, the 123 is estimated what would be our burden. Because remember, we're not paying for it. That's why it looks so huge. Sorry, that's a big question. And again, so everything's going up. But who would have thought that we would have a positive? Let's hope we have that positive at the end of 2026. So actually, you guys at the end of the day should feel, because it's really been a lot of you here have been supportive and have seen the challenges with the system that we have and want to make something solvent and sustainable going forward. And this has not been easy. It's been tried 3 times since I've been here. So good job. Put in supporter, getting bigger now. Okay. Okay. How do we feel about the parking plan budget? Is that one that everybody feels that if Tori brings it back, you can approve?
yeah, all your upfront work.
You just get to come in and you're gonna approve it. Okay, so now, John,
Yeah, that's right.
you can jump down to the next item and again, within your boundaries of confidentiality, if you and Lori want to say anything about the Block 45 evaluation.
Go ahead, Lori.
Well, I don't know what to say. There were some interesting proposals and, I think the 3 or 4 that ended up on top, I agreed with, and I don't know what else we can say. I thought it was all kind of confidential. I don't know.
It is, I mean, the goal, I mean, Tori's on point, but because you were on the evaluation committee, it was just a matter of, we've had that committee meeting.
Yeah.
And recommendations have been made to move some forward, and the next steps would be outreach to them and scheduling presentations in person. So and was it a good experience?
Oh, it was a great experience.
Okay,
Yeah,
And
it-
thank you for your participation.
yeah, of course, thanks for the opportunity to be involved in it, and thanks for getting everything set up. Everything was really well organized, the meeting was really lively and, yeah, it was really inspiring to see some of the visions for that site. It's gonna be really cool for downtown and, now our part is done and now the process is, it goes up to,
Tori will be, the next steps is another level of evaluation for those being recommended for that.
that's
Rent
it. staff
and agency, so it'll go from work group to the agency, a couple of agency members. So part of that.
I have a question. I remember in block 50, there was folks, I believe from out of state that were showing interest. Did anything like that come up in?
No, you wouldn't say.
Hey, that's not good, it's just, yes, no. But no.
I mean, I'd rather have somebody else answer, because I don't know what I can say.
No, there's no from out of state.
Thank you.
So block 50, I think I kind of touched on that when we went over the redevelopment line item in Riverfront, where I said that we are, again, we're still in the process of trying to deal with site readiness. That site has a lot of environmental challenges.
50.
Block 50. Including wells,
No
and,
fiction.
and they've been working on getting no further action, which the reports that went in to get that NFA, DEQ came back and wants additional work done. So of course, block 50 is very different than block 45 in my opinion, because of all of the ongoing, unresolved, continued need for consulting services, to get something, I mean, you kind of want an NFA if you're gonna be, that's a no further action against the environmental contamination. We don't have that. So we're gonna continue to work with that. The good news is that the, developer, is moving forward with, doing some early design work. And so they are moving and we are trying to keep it going on our side. So, yeah, I mean, clearly we were hoping we would see something different there by now, but there's a lot of hairs on that dog. And so we got, the reason we did what we did is because it was not contributing, but unfortunately, it has a lot of challenges with it that,
And in this now, who is paying for all this unknown, you know,
it's our side.
I know that, so the city is now bought themselves into a problem. I mean,
Yes.
because until the developer can develop it, right, because of the DEQ, the environmental concerns.
Okay, so this is one
So I
of,
mean, it could go on and on.
but this is where we're gonna clash just for a second, Lori, because urban renewal areas are created to address blight.
Right, right,
That was a blight.
Categorically.
yes, everybody agreed with that.
Okay, so that's why we bought it, because we knew it had a bunch of hairs on it. We knew it would be financially very difficult
Well, it's too scary for some.
for the private
So they'll
sector
fix that up.
Right,
to do it.
right.
So that will be, because you know, you have money still. And we'll continue to have money because board members prior to you, that was our high priority, to keep money for acquisition because there were so many sites that came up
Right.
that really needed.
Right.
And we didn't have the
No, I
money.
get that, but so now you have enough reserves now, so to see this through, I guess that's my question.
Well, again, one of the budget line items was that carrying cost for redevelopment for block 50 and block 45.
Okay.
So I think it was 457. So yes, based on what we know, that should be sufficient to be able to carry these sites and get them ready for redevelopment when we can transfer it over to development.
So
I wish I could have done it during, you know, line here, but it's complicated. That block 50 is very complicated.
So is the city already come to an agreement on the disposition agreement with the developer then, or is that still?
No, because
In
that's
process.
tied to the environmental piece. If you're a developer and you don't have an NFA and you're trying to figure out, no, that would be a key item that you would want to have.
Yeah, the DEQ.
Yeah.
NFA, no further action is a really, really tough area. I mean, nothing goes forward without an NFA letter being issued with bank money, anyone. And it's so speculative too, because it can get dragged out. And DEQ is not known for being the most expedient agency.
Well, no, the reports, the CMMP reports were submitted in October. And we just got back.
There you go.
Oh, thank you, we reviewed it and now. So, yeah, we can quickly get somebody to turn around and address what they say that we need to do, but then who knows, right, how long again? We have to wait for them to give it to us. So anyway,
Unfortunate reality.
yes. What's Lindsay?
Oh, yeah. You've got some other standards to abide by. Yes. We are ahead of schedule and I'd be remiss to not mention that this is our dear Cherie's final DAB meeting. I won't get emotional,
Good, because then I won't get emotional, and I don't want to get emotional.
but
I
I
got
just,
emotional when Dave went up.
We could always move to have an emergency.
Yeah.
The last day would be
Yeah.
party.
but I just wanted to, as chair, and I know we all feel it too, just wanted to say thank you. We hope we haven't ever been too much of a burden or prickly. But we know your role is really important. We know how much you care about it. With showing up at 4:30 in the morning, doing 3 other people's jobs when no one asked you to do them. And
You guys make it, you guys are the reason, that's it, and I've had wonderful boards. The prickly ones only make you better because it's a challenge for myself, but you guys have been great, we've accomplished a lot.
well, Kirk's here, you can say it's nice.
That's why you're so far from me.
I started out with Garth, then I had Aaron, now I have Kurt, everybody from CB2 is fabulous, so yeah, it's great.
Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Oh,
You got squished.
Oh,
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
what is it? Oh, chocolate,
It's chocolate.
where's the plate?
They're close by, I'm just trying to get a word on adjournment.
Show the
Oh.
YouTube where you Plated.
I wanted to get a little pomp and circumstance.
Yeah.
well, with that said, we can adjourn.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.